After months of girls' nights, she asked why I'm distant. Preparing for your exit, I said. Next day, her father's scream echoed through her phone. He sold everything. Then his voice went deadly quiet. Now see who bought it. That's when she realized the quiet chemist she'd ignored had been 3 steps ahead all along. My name is Dane Carter. I'm 42 years old, and I've spent the last 19 years building 2 things: a marriage and a company. Turns out I was better at one than the other. I'm a chemist by trade, the kind who gets excited about polymer chains and biodegradable substrates. 15 years ago, I developed a packaging material that could decompose in soil within 90 days. My father-in-law, Richard Drummond, saw dollar signs. He brought me into his distribution company, gave me a lab, and told me to make magic happen. I did. The patents are in my name. The company, EcoPack Solutions, became worth $43 million because of my work. But Richard made sure everyone knew it was his company. And my wife, Victoria, made sure everyone knew she was the VP of marketing who really made it all come together. This morning started like most others lately. I woke up at 5:30 to get our son Dylan ready for school. He's 8, loves dinosaurs, and still thinks his mom hung the moon. I tied his sneakers in the kitchen while he munched on cereal, talking about a field trip to the Natural History Museum. The front door opened at 6:19. I didn't look up. I didn't need to. The smell hit first. Perfume. Not hers. Something cheaper, sweeter, like someone else's bathroom counter. Her heels clicked across the tile floor, each step a drumbeat of guilt she'd never admit to. I kept my eyes on Dylan's laces, pulling them tight, double knotting them the way he liked. Morning, Victoria said, her voice too bright, too practiced. She dropped her clutch on the counter and opened the fridge like this was normal. Like 6 a.m. arrivals were just part of her routine now. Girls' night, ran late again. I asked, standing up and handing Dylan his lunchbox. My voice was flat, neutral. I'd perfected that tone over the past 8 months. She didn't even look at me, just grabbed a bottle of sparkling water and twisted the cap. You know how Laura gets when she's going through stuff. We lost track of time. Laura. Her favorite excuse. Funny thing about Laura, she posted Instagram stories last night from her lake house. 200 miles away. Time stamped. But I didn't say that. I just watched Victoria run her fingers through her hair, still styled from wherever she'd actually been. Dylan grabbed his backpack and kissed his mom on the cheek. Bye, Mom. Love you. Love you too, baby, she said. And for a second, her mask slipped. She looked tired. Not guilty, just tired of pretending. After I dropped Dylan at school, I sat in my truck in the parking lot for 10 minutes. My phone buzzed. A text from my lawyer. Documents ready for review. Call when you can. I stared at that message, then looked at the photo on my dashboard. Victoria and me, 10 years ago, at the beach. She was laughing, her head thrown back, my arm around her shoulders. We looked happy. Maybe we were. Or maybe I just couldn't see the cracks yet. That night, Victoria came home at a normal hour for once. She made pasta, poured wine, and asked Dylan about his day. She was good at this part. The performance. When Dylan went to his room to play, she turned to me. Why have you been so cold lately? She asked, swirling her wine. You barely talk to me anymore. I looked at her across the kitchen island. Really looked at her. She'd changed her hair, lost weight, started wearing contacts instead of glasses. Small things. Things she probably thought I wouldn't notice. Just preparing, I said quietly. She frowned. Preparing for what? I met her eyes and held them. For when you're gone. Her face went still. For just a second, something like panic flashed across it. Then she laughed, sharp and brittle. God, Dane. So dramatic. I'm not going anywhere. I didn't answer. I just picked up my coffee and walked to my office, leaving her standing there with her wine and her lies. She didn't know it yet, but I'd already started dismantling everything she thought was hers. The company, the house, the future she was planning with Blake Hendricks, her director of sales, and the man whose cologne I'd been smelling on her for months. She thought I was just the quiet chemist who stayed in his lab and let other people run the show. She was wrong. And soon, she'd understand exactly how wrong she'd been. The thing about betrayal is that it's never just one thing. It's layers, like peeling an onion, except each layer burns worse than the last. I discovered the first layer 3 months ago. The second layer? That came last Tuesday. I've been going through our finances. Not because I'm controlling, because I'm methodical. Every month, I review our accounts, our investments, our savings. It's what you do when you build something from nothing. You pay attention. You don't assume everything's fine just because the lights are still on. Our joint savings account, the one we've been building for Dylan's college fund and our future, showed a balance of $847. It should have shown $319,212. I stared at that number for a full minute, thinking maybe I'd logged into the wrong account. I hadn't. I pulled up the transaction history. Transfers. Dozens of them. Small enough not to trigger alerts. 5,000 here. 8,000 there. Spread across 14 months. All going to an account I didn't recognize. I did what any chemist would do. I traced the compound back to its source. The receiving account belonged to an LLC registered in Delaware. Blake Hendricks, sole proprietor. My wife had been funneling our savings, money I'd earned, money we'd saved together, to her lover's business account. $318,000. Gone. I sat in my office that night. The bank statements spread across my desk like evidence at a crime scene. Victoria was upstairs, probably texting Blake about their next business meeting. Dylan was asleep, dreaming whatever 8-year-olds dream about. And I was realizing that the woman I'd married didn't just betray me. She robbed me. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part came when I checked the deed to our house. The house I'd bought 7 years ago with money from my first-time buyout. $420,000. Paid in full. No mortgage. My name should have been on that deed. It wasn't. Patricia Drummond. My mother-in-law. That's whose name was on the title. I remembered now, Victoria convincing me it made sense for tax purposes. Her mother's accountant had suggested it. Something about estate planning and capital gains. I trusted her. Why wouldn't I? She was my wife. Now I understood. The house wasn't mine. Legally, I'd been paying property taxes and insurance on a house owned by my mother-in-law for 7 years. If we divorced, I'd walk away with nothing. That had been the plan all along. I called my lawyer, Andrew Vance, at 11 p.m. He answered on the third ring. Dane, what's wrong? I told him. All of it. The empty account. The house deed. The months of transfers. When I finished, there was silence on the other end. Jesus, Andrew finally said. That's financial fraud. Possibly wire fraud, depending on how she moved the money. You want to press charges? Not yet, I said. I want everything documented first. Every transaction, every transfer, every lie. Can you do that? Already on it. And Dane, that house situation, we can fight that. You've got proof of payment. 7 years of tax documents, insurance payments, maintenance records. No judge is going to let her mother keep a house you paid for. Good. Start the paperwork. Quietly. I hung up and looked at the photograph on my desk. Our wedding day. Victoria in white, smiling at the camera like she'd won the lottery. Maybe she thought she had. Marry the smart guy, bleed him dry, trade him in for the charming guy. Except she forgot one thing. Smart guys notice patterns. And I'd noticed hers. The next morning, Victoria left early for a client breakfast. I waited until her car disappeared down the street, then went to her office. She kept files there, personal ones she thought I never looked at. I found what I needed in the bottom drawer. Bank statements from an account I didn't know she had. Medical records. A receipt from a clinic in Scottsdale, dated 3 years ago. The procedure was listed as elective termination. 3 years ago, we'd been trying for a second child. She told me she'd had a miscarriage. I held her while she cried. I brought her soup. I told her we'd try again when she was ready. She'd look me in the eyes and thank me for being so understanding. It was a lie. She hadn't miscarried. She'd chosen to end a pregnancy. And based on the dates, based on when Blake started working for us, I had a pretty good idea whose child it had been. She'd killed his baby to keep up the appearance of our marriage, to keep access to my patents, my work, my money. I put the papers back exactly where I found them. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I thought I'd be shaking. Instead, I felt cold, clear, focused. That evening, Dylan asked me to help him with a science project. We built a volcano in the backyard, mixing baking soda and vinegar, watching it erupt. He laughed and cheered and hugged me when it worked. Dad, you're the smartest person I know, he said. I looked down at him, at his bright eyes and his gap-toothed smile, and thought about the DNA test I'd scheduled for next week. The one his pediatrician had ordered after Dylan collapsed during soccer practice last month. They needed to check for genetic blood disorders. They needed both parents tested. I already knew what that test would show. I'd known for a while, Deep down, the way Dylan looked nothing like me. The way Victoria had pushed so hard for us to have a baby right after Blake joined the company 9 years ago. The timing of everything. But I needed proof. For court. For custody. For the moment when she realized I hadn't just been quiet. I'd been preparing. Dylan collapsed during recess on a Thursday. The school called me first, not Victoria. I was at the lab when my phone rang, the principal's voice tight with controlled panic. "Mr. Carter, Dylan fainted on the playground. The paramedics are taking him to St. Michael's. You should meet them there." I made it to the hospital in 12 minutes. Victoria showed up 40 minutes later, mascara smudged, Blake's cologne still clinging to her blouse. She rushed into the waiting room like she'd been worried sick, but I'd already checked her location on Find My Friends. She'd been at the Marriott downtown. Room 412. Same room she visited every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. "What happened?" she demanded, gripping my arm. "Is he okay?" "They're running tests," I said, pulling away from her touch. "They think it might be a blood disorder." Dr. Phillips came out 20 minutes later. Dylan was stable, but they needed to run genetic panels. Both parents had to be tested to identify potential hereditary conditions. "It's standard protocol," Dr. Phillips explained, handing us consent forms. "We need to map genetic markers from both of you to narrow down what we're dealing with." Victoria signed without reading. I signed knowing exactly what this test would reveal. The results came back 6 days later. Dr. Phillips called me into his office alone. Victoria was at another client dinner. The doctor slid a folder across his desk, his expression carefully neutral. "Mr. Carter, I need to inform you of something the genetic testing revealed." He paused. "Dylan doesn't share genetic markers with you. You're not his biological father." I didn't react, didn't blink, just nodded like he'd confirmed the weather forecast. "I suspected," I said quietly. Dr. Phillips looked relieved he didn't have to navigate my emotional breakdown. "The good news is Dylan's condition is manageable. It's a clotting factor deficiency, treatable with medication. But given the paternity revelation, you should know you have legal options regarding." "I want full documentation," I interrupted. "Every test result, every genetic report, sealed and sent to my attorney." "Of course." I stood up, shook his hand, and walked out of that office with ammunition I'd known was coming. Dylan wasn't mine. 8 years of bedtime stories, soccer practices, homework help, teaching him to ride a bike, all of it built on Victoria's lie. But here's what she didn't understand. Biology doesn't determine love. I'd raised that boy. I'd been his father when it mattered. But in a courtroom, biology mattered. And that DNA test was going to cost her everything. That night, I made Dylan his favorite dinner. Spaghetti with the sauce he liked, garlic bread, chocolate milk. We ate together while Victoria was God knows where with Blake. Dylan told me about his friend's birthday party, about the science fair project he wanted to do. "Dad, can we build a robot?" he asked, eyes bright with excitement. "Sure, buddy. We'll start this weekend." He hugged me before bed, his small arms tight around my neck. "I love you, Dad." "Love you too, kid," I said, and meant it. Whatever Victoria had done, whatever lies she'd told, Dylan was innocent. And I'd protect him from the fallout of her choices. But I'd also use those test results to make sure she never took him from me. I wasn't his biological father, but I was the only real parent he'd ever known. Any judge would see that, especially when they saw the evidence of Victoria's affair, her fraud, her lies. I went to my office after Dylan fell asleep and opened my laptop. The corporate documents were ready. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., the sale of EcoPack Solutions to Frost Industries would be finalized. Nathan Frost, the competitor Richard Drummond had publicly humiliated 2 years ago, would own everything. And Victoria, who thought her VP title was untouchable, would find out just how disposable she really was. I looked at the compass on my desk, the one Victoria gave me on our honeymoon, joking that I'd needed to find my way back to her. I picked it up, feeling its weight. Tomorrow, I'd mail it back to her. With a note, "You were the one who got lost." I always knew where I was going. The needle pointed north. Steady. True. Unwavering. Just like my resolve. The paperwork went through at 9:03 a.m. on a Wednesday. By 9:15, every employee at EcoPack Solutions received an email with the subject line, "Company Transition Notice." I was in my lab when it happened, pretending to review polymer samples while my phone buzzed with confused messages from coworkers. Victoria was in her office, probably scrolling Instagram or texting Blake. She didn't check her email until 9:47. I know because I heard the scream from 2 floors below. She tried calling me first. I didn't answer. Then she tried her father. 3 times. He didn't pick up. By 10:15, she was in the parking lot, phone pressed to her ear, pacing like a caged animal. Richard finally called her back at 10:22. I know because I was walking to my truck and heard everything. She'd put him on speaker, probably too panicked to care who overheard. Dad. Her voice was shrill, desperate. Did you see the email? What the hell is going on? I'm looking at it now. Richard's voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear the tremor underneath. This doesn't make sense. Dane doesn't have the authority to. He sold the company. Victoria shrieked. He sold our company to Frost Industries. He can't do that. There was a pause. A long one. I could almost see Richard Drummond's face going pale as he pulled up the shareholder agreements, the voting rights documentation, the cap table he hadn't looked at in years. Oh God, Richard whispered. What? Dad, what is it? His voice, when it came back, was hollow. Dead. He can. The majority stake. I gave it to him in 2018 for that bridge loan. It was supposed to be temporary. We were going to restructure after the expansion. But we never. He trailed off. We never did. He's had controlling interest for 7 years. Victoria's breath caught. No, that's not possible. You said we controlled the company. You said. I was wrong. Richard's voice broke. Actual emotion from a man I'd never seen show weakness. He sold everything, Victoria. The patents are in his name. He licensed them to the company, but he owns them. Without Dane, we have nothing. And now Frost has it all. He can't just. Victoria started, but her father cut her off. Oh yes, he can, Richard said, his voice dropping to barely a whisper. And you need to see who he sold it to. The line went dead. Victoria stood there, phone in her shaking hand, staring at nothing. Then she saw me, standing by my truck, 30 feet away, close enough to have heard everything. Our eyes met. Hers were wild, desperate, searching for an explanation that would make this make sense. Mine were calm, empty, final. Dane, she breathed, starting toward me. Dane, what did you do? I got in my truck, started the engine, and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I watched her standing in the parking lot, growing smaller, insignificant, exactly what she'd made me feel for months. My phone buzzed. A text from Nathan Frost. Meeting at 2 p.m. Conference room. Don't be late. I wasn't just attending that meeting. I was leading it. As senior partner of Frost Industries, my new title. The position Nathan and I had negotiated over 3 months of secret meetings. I kept my patents, got a 30% stake in the merged company, and a salary that made my old one look like an allowance. Victoria kept nothing. Her VP title, gone. Her office, reassigned. Her lover Blake Hendricks. Nathan had already prepared his termination paperwork. Effective immediately. Richard Drummond, the man who'd called me useful but unimaginative at a board meeting last year. He'd just lost the company he'd spent 40 years building. To the competitor he'd mocked, powered by the son-in-law he'd underestimated. I drove to my lawyer's office. Andrew had the divorce papers ready. Adultery, fraud, financial misconduct, and the DNA test results, sealed in an envelope marked Exhibit A. You sure about this? Andrew asked, sliding the folder across his desk. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. She's going to fight, especially for Dylan. Let her. I met his eyes. I've got documentation of everything. The affair, the money, the lies. And I've got 8 years of being his only real parent. What does she have? Andrew smiled. Thin. Sharp. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I signed the papers, handed them back, and walked out into the afternoon sun feeling lighter than I had in years. The weight of pretending, of ignoring, of playing the fool was gone. Victoria thought she was playing chess. She didn't realize I'd already flipped the board. The all-staff meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. Nathan Frost didn't believe in easing people into change. He believed in clarity. Swift, surgical, undeniable. I arrived at 1:45. The conference room was already filling with nervous employees, people I'd worked alongside for years. They looked at me differently now. Some with confusion, others with something like respect. They'd underestimated the quiet chemist too. Victoria walked in at 1:58, Blake trailing behind her like a lost puppy. She tried to pull herself together. Fresh makeup, hair smoothed, but I could see the cracks, the tremor in her hands, the way her eyes darted around the room, looking for allies who'd stopped returning her calls. Nathan entered at exactly 2 p.m. tall, sharp-suited, carrying a presence that filled the room. He didn't use a microphone. Didn't need one. Good afternoon. I'm Nathan Frost, your new CEO. Let's skip the pleasantries and get to what matters. He clicked to the first slide. Effective immediately, EcoPack Solutions is now a subsidiary of Frost Industries. Some positions will be retained. Others will not. The next slide appeared. A list of names under organizational restructuring. Victoria Carter, VP Marketing, position eliminated. Blake Hendricks, Director of Sales, terminated for cause. Richard Drummond, Board Advisor, contract not renewed. Victoria's face went white. Blake actually stood up, like he was going to protest. Nathan's eyes cut to him. Mr. Hendricks, security will escort you out after this meeting. Your company credit cards have been deactivated. Your access revoked. We've identified significant expense irregularities tied to your department. You'll be hearing from our attorneys. Blake sat down hard. The room was silent except for the hum of the projector. Nathan continued. Now, let's discuss why this transition was necessary. Another slide. Screenshots of expense reports. Hotel charges. Restaurants. All billed to the company. All tied to Blake's corporate card. Some with Victoria's authorization signature. Company resources misused for personal affairs. Literally. Nathan's voice was ice. This isn't just poor judgment. It's fraud. Someone gasped. Victoria was staring at the screen like she could make it disappear by force of will. The next slide showed before and after photos. Victoria. From 5 years ago and from last month. The difference was stark. Medical expenses billed to company insurance, Nathan said. $47,000 in cosmetic procedures, coded as treatment for workplace injury. He paused. There was no workplace injury, just vanity and theft. Victoria is shot to her feet. This is a witch hunt. You can't. I can. Nathan interrupted calmly. And I have documentation for everything. Submitted to the insurance fraud division this morning. You'll be hearing from them too. She looked at me then. Really looked at me. Searching for the man who used to defend her, protect her, love her. That man was gone. I met her gaze and said nothing. Sometimes silence cuts deeper than words. This meeting is adjourned, Nathan said. Those whose positions are eliminated will receive final paperwork by end of business today. Everyone else, welcome to the new EcoPack. Victoria rushed out, Blake following. In the hallway, I heard her crying. Actual tears. Not for our marriage. Not for what she destroyed. For what she'd lost. I stayed behind as people filed out. Nathan approached, extending his hand. Clean work, Dane. Your patents are going to revolutionize our sustainable packaging division. Just doing what needed to be done. Your wife didn't see it coming. She stopped paying attention years ago, I said. That was her mistake. Nathan smiled. Their loss. Our gain. I walked to my new office, 3 floors up, corner view. Twice the size of my old lab space. My name already on the door. Dr. Dane Carter, Senior Partner, Research and Development. On my desk sat a package. I knew what it was before I opened it. The compass. Return to sender. Victoria's handwriting on the note inside. Please. We need to talk. I dropped it in the trash. We had nothing left to talk about. The only conversation we'd have now would be through lawyers. And I'd already won that conversation before it started. Victoria tried everything. First, she showed up at my apartment. I'd moved out 2 weeks ago. Didn't tell her where. She found out anyway. Probably called every property management company in town. I didn't answer the door. Just watched through the peephole as she knocked, called my name, finally slid a note under the door. I left it there for 3 hours before reading it. Dane, please. Let me explain. It's not what you think. We can fix this. For Dylan's sake. For Dylan's sake. Like she'd ever considered his sake when she was in hotel rooms with Blake. When she was draining our accounts. When she was ending pregnancies and calling them miscarriages. I threw the note away and called my lawyer. Andrew. She's trying to make contact. What do I do? Nothing. Don't respond. Don't engage. Let me handle it. He paused. The divorce papers will be served tomorrow. She'll have her chance to respond in court. The next evening, my phone rang. Patricia, Victoria's mother. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Dane. Her voice was clipped. Professional. We need to talk. About. About the mess my daughter made. And about what you want. I lean back in my chair. What I want. You sold the company. Fine. You humiliated Richard. I understand. But Victoria is still my daughter, and Dylan is still my grandson. What will it take to settle this quietly? Quietly. I laughed. Actually laughed. Patricia, your daughter committed fraud. She stole $300,000 from our joint account. She billed cosmetic surgery to company insurance. She's been having an affair for 9 months. There's nothing quiet about any of this. Everyone makes mistakes. Mistakes are accidents. This was deliberate, calculated, ongoing. Silence on her end. Then quieter. What about Dylan? What about him? The DNA test. I know about it. Her voice faltered. You're going to use it, aren't you? In the custody hearing. I'm going to present facts. The court will decide what's relevant. Dane, please. He thinks you're his father. I am his father. In every way that matters. But Victoria tried to trap me with a lie. That matters too. Patricia took a shaky breath. If I testify about the house, about how Richard convinced you put in my name, will that help your case? I sat up straight. What are you saying? I'm saying my daughter made her choices. But I won't let her drag everyone down with her. That house should be yours. You paid for it. I'll sign whatever documents your lawyer needs. Why would you do that? Because unlike my daughter, I know when to cut losses. Her voice hardened. And because Richard's pride destroyed a 40-year company, I won't let Victoria's selfishness destroy what's left of this family's integrity. She hung up. I sat there, phone in hand, processing what just happened. My mother-in-law just offered to betray her own daughter. Not out of loyalty to me, out of damage control. But I'd take it. The house was worth $420,000. With Patricia's testimony, I'd get it. Add that to the fraud charges, the affair documentation, and the DNA evidence, and Victoria would be lucky to get supervised visitation. 2 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Dane Carter. Male voice. Unfamiliar. Who's asking? Blake Hendricks. Don't hang up. Please. Every instinct told me to disconnect. But I waited. What do you want, Blake? To tell you the truth. About Victoria. About all of it. He sounded wrecked. Broken. She lied to me too. Told me you two were separated. That the divorce was already filed. That she was just waiting for the paperwork to finalize. And you believed her? I wanted to. She was convincing. He laughed bitterly. But that doesn't matter now. I'm calling because you should know something. About the money she took from your account. I already know. $318,000. It wasn't for me. I mean, some of it was. The hotel rooms, the trips. But most of it. She was moving it offshore. Setting up accounts in the Cayman Islands. She was planning to leave. Both of us. My blood went cold. What? She had it all planned. In 6 months, she was going to file for divorce, claim you were abusive, get emergency custody of Dylan, and disappear. The offshore accounts were her escape fund. You have proof of this. Bank statements. Emails. She kept everything on her laptop. I can get them to you. Why are you telling me this? His voice broke. Because she used me. She used you. She used everyone. And I'm done being her accomplice. Whatever happens to me, I deserve it. But you deserve to know what she really is. He hung up. 20 minutes later, my email dinged. Files. Dozens of them. Bank statements showing transfers to Cayman accounts. Emails between Victoria and an immigration attorney in Panama. Searches for international schools. She wasn't just planning to leave me. She was planning to take Dylan and vanish. I forwarded everything to Andrew with one line. Add this to the file. His response came in seconds. This just became a criminal case. I'm calling the FBI. Victoria thought she was playing me. She didn't realize she'd been playing herself all along. Dylan's school called on a Wednesday. The principal's voice was carefully neutral, the kind of tone people use when they're trying not to take sides. Mr. Carter, we need to discuss an incident involving Dylan. My stomach dropped. Is he hurt? No, nothing like that. But there was an altercation during lunch. Some children were saying things about the situation with you and Mrs. Carter. She paused. Dylan got into a fight defending you. I closed my eyes. I'll be there in 15 minutes. The principal's office smelled like old coffee and anxiety. Dylan sat in a chair outside, knuckles scraped, eyes red from crying. When he saw me, he ran over and buried his face in my shirt. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hit him, but he said you were a thief, and that Mom said, Hey, it's okay. I knelt down, holding his shoulders. What exactly did he say? That you stole Mom's company. That you're a bad person. That Mom's crying all the time because of what you did. His voice broke. But that's not true, right? You didn't do anything wrong. The principal cleared her throat. Mr. Carter, perhaps we should speak privately? I looked at Dylan. Buddy, wait here for just a minute, okay? Inside her office, Principal Anderson closed the door. I'm aware of the divorce proceedings, and I'm aware that several other parents have children in Victoria's junior league group. She folded her hands on her desk. Unfortunately, Mrs. Carter has been vocal about her version of events. The children have been hearing things at playdates, at soccer games. It's creating a hostile environment for Dylan. What are you suggesting? That perhaps a fresh start might be best. For Dylan's sake. I understood what she wasn't saying. Victoria's friends ran the parent committee. They donated to the school. They organized fundraisers. And they decided I was the villain because Victoria told them I was. I'll transfer him, I said quietly. Do you have recommendations? She slid a folder across the desk. 3 schools outside this district. Excellent programs. No overlap with your current social circles. Translation. Places where Victoria's poison hadn't spread yet. That evening, I sat Dylan down and explained we'd be changing schools. He took it better than I expected. Will the kids there be nicer? He asked. I think so. And buddy, some of what you're hearing about Mom and me, it's complicated. But I need you to know something. I waited until he looked at me. I love you. That's never going to change. No matter what anyone says. I love you too, Dad. He hugged me. When can I see Mom? Soon. We're working that out. What I didn't tell him was that Victoria's supervised visitation didn't start for another 2 weeks. Or that the supervisor would be a court-appointed social worker. Or that she'd only get 4 hours every Sunday. And only if she passed a drug test first. The next day, I got a call from Blake's attorney. He wanted to meet. I almost declined, but Andrew advised hearing him out. We met at a coffee shop downtown. Blake looked terrible. Unshaven, hollow-eyed, wearing a wrinkled shirt. He'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. I'm cooperating with the FBI, he said without preamble. Providing everything I have on Victoria's offshore accounts, the expense fraud, all of it. Why are you telling me? Because you should know what else I found. He slid a folder across the table. Text messages between Victoria and another guy. Started about 6 weeks ago. Someone named Trevor from her gym. I stared at the folder. Didn't touch it. She was already planning to dump me. Blake continued bitterly. I was just a bridge. The stepping stone. Next month, she was going to file for divorce from you. Wait 6 months. Then marry Trevor. He's some investment banker. Rich family. How did you get these? She kept everything on her laptop. When I realized what she was doing, I copied the hard drive. He laughed, hollow and broken. I thought we had something real. Turns out I was just another transaction to her. I picked up the folder. These authenticated. My lawyer verified them. They're admissible. Blake stood. I know I don't deserve any sympathy from you. But I wanted you to know, she played both of us. And she would have kept playing everyone until someone finally stopped her. He walked out. I sat there with the folder, thinking about Victoria's pattern. Always looking for the next best thing. The next advantage. The next mark. I'd just been the longest con. Andrew filed the new evidence that afternoon. The judge wasn't going to like finding out Victoria had another affair partner while the first affair was being litigated. That night, Dylan asked me about his mother again. I told him the truth, in terms an 8-year-old could understand. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. Big ones. And those mistakes have consequences. Your mom made some choices that hurt a lot of people. Now she has to face what she did. Will she go to jail? I don't know, buddy. Maybe. He thought about that. I still love her. That's okay. You're allowed to love her and be disappointed in her at the same time. Are you disappointed in her? I looked at my son, at his earnest face and his scraped knuckles from defending me at school. Yeah, I am. But I'm proud of you. So proud. He smiled. And in that moment, I knew whatever hell Victoria had put us through, Dylan would be okay. Because he had one parent who showed up. One parent who told the truth. And sometimes, that's enough. The divorce hearing was scheduled for a Friday morning. I wore a suit, brought 3 binders of documentation, and sat next to Andrew while Victoria and her attorney took the opposite table. She looked smaller somehow. Thinner. The confidence she used to wear like armor had been stripped away, leaving someone I barely recognized. Judge Reynolds reviewed the files for 10 minutes before looking up. This is one of the most documented cases of marital fraud I've seen in 20 years on this bench. She looked at Victoria. Mrs. Carter, your attorney has advised you of the evidence against you. Victoria's lawyer, a nervous woman named Hoffman, nodded. Yes, Your Honor. We're prepared to negotiate terms. Negotiate? Judge Reynolds raised an eyebrow. Mrs. Carter has committed provable fraud, adultery, and conspiracy to commit parental kidnapping. What exactly are we negotiating? Your Honor, my client acknowledges mistakes were made. Mistakes? The judge cut her off. She stole over $300,000 from a joint account. She billed cosmetic surgery to company insurance fraudulently. She maintained offshore accounts while planning to flee the country with a child who isn't biologically hers. These aren't mistakes. These are crimes. Victoria finally spoke, her voice small. I never meant to hurt anyone. Judge Reynolds looked at her over her reading glasses. What you meant is irrelevant. What you did is documented, provable, and indefensible. She turned to me. Mr. Carter, you're seeking full custody of the minor child, Dylan Carter? Yes, Your Honor. Despite the paternity test showing no biological relation. Dylan is my son in every way that matters. I've raised him since birth. I'm the only stable parent he's known. The judge nodded. The court agrees. Full custody awarded to Dane Carter. Victoria Carter will have supervised visitation for hours per month, pending completion of court-ordered counseling and compliance with all fraud investigation requirements. Victoria's sob was audible. Her attorney put a hand on her arm. Additionally, the judge continued, all marital assets, including the residence at 4782 Oakmont Drive, are awarded to Mr. Carter as compensation for documented theft and fraud. Mrs. Carter's claim to any portion of EcoPack Solutions or its successor entities is denied. She is ordered to repay the stolen funds within 90 days or face criminal prosecution. Your Honor, Attorney Hoffman tried. My client doesn't have the resources to. Then she should have thought of that before stealing them. Judge Reynolds banged her gavel. This court is adjourned. Mrs. Carter, you're fortunate the district attorney hasn't filed criminal charges yet. I suggest you cooperate fully with their investigation. We stood. Victoria tried to approach me, but her attorney held her back. I walked out with Andrew, not looking back. In the parking lot, Andrew shook my hand. You won everything. I lost a marriage. You lost a lie. You won your son, your company, and your integrity. That's not nothing. He was right. I drove to Dylan's new school to pick him up. He ran to the car, smiling, telling me about the science project he'd started. Dad, can we get pizza tonight? Absolutely. And can we start building that robot this weekend? You bet. As we drove home, Dylan asked the question I've been expecting. Did you see Mom today? Yeah. At court. Is she okay? I thought about how to answer that. She's dealing with the consequences of her choices. It's hard for her, but it's what needs to happen. Do you still love her? I glanced at him in the rearview mirror. I love who I thought she was, but that person might not have ever really existed. He nodded, processing that with the seriousness only kids can manage. I'm glad I'm staying with you. Me too, buddy. Me too. That night, after Dylan was asleep, I stood in my new home office and looked at the framed patent certificates on the wall. 15 years of work. Innovations that would outlast any marriage, any betrayal. Victoria had tried to take everything. Instead, she'd lost it all. Not because I was cruel. Because I refused to be a victim. I'd stopped reacting and started planning. I'd stopped hoping she'd change and started documenting what she was. And when the time came, I dismantled her world with the same precision I used to design sustainable materials. She'd underestimated the quiet chemist. That was her fatal error. Because quiet doesn't mean weak. It just means I was listening while she was talking. And everything she said, everything she did, I'd used to build the case that destroyed her. Richard Drummond's office building went on the market 3 weeks after the divorce finalized. I drove past it one morning on my way to Frost Industries, saw the for lease sign, and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just the quiet acknowledgement that some things can't be saved. Andrew called that afternoon. Victoria is being prosecuted. Wire fraud, insurance fraud, and conspiracy to commit international parental kidnapping. The DA offered a plea deal. 3 years, eligible for parole in 18 months. Did she take it? Her attorney's reviewing it. Trial would mean 7 to 10 if convicted. She doesn't have much choice. I thought about that. Victoria in prison. The woman who used to run charity galas and chair the junior league now wearing orange scrubs. Part of me felt sorry for her. A very small part. What about Blake? Cooperating witness. He'll get immunity if his testimony holds up. He's relocating to Oregon, starting over. At least someone was trying to rebuild. That was more than Victoria was doing. Dylan started at his new school the following Monday. Mountain View Academy. Smaller classes, better science program, kids who didn't know anything about our family drama. I walked him to his classroom that first morning. You nervous? I asked. A little. He looked up at me. What if they ask about Mom? Tell them the truth. Your parents are divorced. You live with your dad. That's all anyone needs to know. His teacher, Mr. Harrison, met us at the door. Young, enthusiastic, already planning a robotics unit Dylan would love. They started talking about circuit boards, and I knew he'd be okay. That evening, Nathan Frost invited me to dinner. His house in the hills, all glass and steel, and commanding views. His wife, Elizabeth, was a patent attorney. Sharp, funny, and genuinely interested in my work. Dane's biodegradable polymer is revolutionary, Nathan told her. We're already getting inquiries from major food distributors. I just make the materials, I said. You make them profitable. Partnerships work when both sides bring value, Nathan replied. Richard never understood that. He thought he was doing you a favor by letting you work. He didn't realize you were the entire value proposition. Over dessert, Elizabeth asked about Dylan. I told her about the new school, the robotics project, the slow healing process. Kids are resilient, she said, especially when they have one solid parent. I'm trying. You're succeeding. She smiled. Nathan told me about the custody battle. What you did for that boy, fighting for him even after the DNA test, that's real parenting. Later, driving home, I thought about that. Real parenting. Showing up every day. Telling the truth. Protecting your kid from the fallout of adult mistakes. Dylan was already asleep when I got home. I checked on him, watched him breathe peacefully, and felt the weight of the past months finally start to lift. Victoria had taken a lot. My trust, my money, years of my life. But she hadn't taken what mattered most. Dylan was safe. My work was thriving. And I'd learned that quiet strength beats loud manipulation every single time. Some battles you win by fighting. Others you win by refusing to be destroyed. I'd done both. 14 months after the divorce, I stood in Dylan's new school gymnasium, watching him compete in the regional science fair. His project, a biodegradable water filtration system, was ambitious for a 9-year-old. We'd worked on it together for 3 months. The judges awarded him second place. He ran over, metal bouncing against his chest, grinning ear to ear. Dad, did you see? Second place. I saw. I'm so proud of you. Can we get ice cream to celebrate? Absolutely. We went to the same shop we'd been going to since he was 3. Dylan got his usual, chocolate chip cookie dough. I got coffee. We sat outside in the spring sunshine, and he told me everything the judges said about his project. Mr. Harrison thinks I should submit it to the state competition. Then we'll work on improving it. Make it even better. He licked his cone thoughtfully. Dad, can I ask you something? Sure, buddy. Do you think Mom's proud of me? I chose my words carefully. I think she loves you. And I think wherever she is, whatever she's dealing with, she knows you're an amazing kid. Victoria was 6 months into her sentence at a minimum security facility in Nevada. She'd written to Dylan twice. Short letters, mostly saying she was sorry and she missed him. Dylan had written back once. I didn't push either way. Do you think I'll see her again? Probably. When she gets out, if she stays clean and follows the court rules, you might have visits. Would that be okay with you? I looked at my son, at his earnest face and his worried eyes. Dylan, you're allowed to love both of us. What happened between your mom and me doesn't change that you're her son too. If you want to see her someday, I'll support that. He nodded, relieved. Thanks, Dad. That weekend, I had dinner with someone new. Rachel, an environmental engineer I'd met through Nathan. She designed water reclamation systems for agricultural use. Smart, funny, and refreshingly honest. We've been seeing each other for 2 months. Nothing serious yet, but something with potential. Dylan had met her once, briefly, when she stopped by to drop off some research papers. He'd given his approval in the car afterward. She's nice. And she laughed at my science joke. High praise from a 9-year-old. Rachel and I talked about work, about her project in Arizona, about my expansion plans with Frost Industries. Then she asked about Dylan. How's he adjusting? Better. The new school was the right call. He's making friends, his grades are strong, and he's not carrying around other people's judgments anymore. And you? How are you adjusting? I thought about that. I'm good. Better than I've been in years, actually. It's strange. I went through hell, lost a marriage, fought a custody battle, watched someone I loved implode. But I came out stronger. That's not strange. That's growth. She was right. I'd spent so many years trying to hold together something that was already broken, trying to be enough for someone who was never satisfied, trying to ignore the warning signs because I'd made a commitment. Now I was free. Free to build something real. With Dylan, with my work, and maybe, eventually, with someone who actually valued what I brought to the table. We said goodnight outside the restaurant. No pressure, no expectations. Just two people figuring out if there was something worth exploring. Driving home, I thought about the journey. From that morning when Victoria came home reeking of someone else's cologne, to today. 14 months of documentation, legal battles, corporate restructuring, and rebuilding. I'd lost a wife but gained myself back. Lost a company but built a better one. Lost the illusion of a perfect family but gained the reality of being a real father. Dylan was asleep on the couch when I got home. Chemistry textbook open on his chest. I carried him to bed, tucked him in, and stood in the doorway for a moment. Love you, Dad, he mumbled, half asleep. Love you too, buddy. In my office, I looked at the wall of patents. 17 now, with 3 more pending. Each one represented a problem I'd solved, a challenge I'd overcome, a way to make something better than it was before. That's what I did. I identified what was broken and fixed it. Sometimes the broken thing was a polymer chain. Sometimes it was a life. Victoria had thought she could break me, take everything, and leave me with nothing. She'd been wrong, because she never understood that I didn't need her company, or her money, or her validation. I needed to know I'd fought for what was right, protected my son, built something lasting, and I'd done all 3. The compass sat in my desk drawer. I'd kept it, not out of sentimentality, but as a reminder that I'd always known my direction, even when everyone else was lost. North. Always north. Toward truth, toward integrity, toward the life I deserved. And I'd finally arrived.